test your knowledge. Functions performed within communication systems. Now, what we're going to do in these questions is take a look at some questions related to the functions performed within communication systems. So let's have a look at these 5 questions. So firstly, provide a scenario of creating a message. Be sure to reference hardware and software. Question 2, describe 2 ways the message must first be transformed before data transmission can take place. Highlight the stages where these transformations occur in the communication systems framework. Question 3, outline the process of synchronizing the exchange of data. Question 4, distinguish between the addressing purposes of IP and MAC addresses. And question 5, identify 3 methods of error detection. What process takes place if an error occurs? So I encourage you to pause the video here, and at 1 minute, we shall start going through the answers. Okay, let's start going through these answers. So firstly, provide a scenario of creating a message. Be sure to reference hardware and software. So creating a message, remember, takes place at the application level of the communication systems framework. So we're interacting with hardware and software here, as the question suggests. So a scenario would be a user may use their laptop or a mobile device to compose an email message using the Gmail app, okay? And that app might be installed on their phone. Okay, or they could be using the version that's through the server available through their web browser. Okay, but the software allows them to compose the message and then send it, and hardware allows them to physically enter in the actual message itself. Okay, so that's the user or participant creating the message. Question 2. Describe 2 ways that the message must first be transformed before data transmission can take place. Highlight the stages where these transformations occur in the communication systems framework. Now, we need to understand that, yes, there are 2 transformations taking place. So, for data transmission to take place, the message must first be arranged into data packets. Okay, so we've got to set it out in data packets specified by the type of protocol being used, and usually arranged during the handshaking process. This occurs at the communication control and addressing level. Okay, so this is before the transmission level. Okay, it gets arranged in the packets. After the initiation of the message transfer at the transmission level, then, depending on the mediums used to transfer the data, the transmitted are going to represent the actual bits now as waves. Okay, so it's going to be transferred as a wavelength during transmission. Okay, and this is based on the medium being used to transfer the data. So the 2 types of transformations that take place are the data is firstly arranged into packets at the communication control and addressing level, and then the second transformation is that the data is then transformed into a waveform for transmission down a specific medium at the transmission level. Question 3, outline the process of synchronizing the data exchange. So this is making sure that both the transmitter and receiver are synchronized, basically as data is transferred between them. Now, this occurs through the sender and receiver synchronizing their transition through synchronizing both devices' internal clocks, which is achieved through the use of start and end frames, which have a special bit sequence that the receiving station recognizes to indicate the start and end of each data packet. So basically, at the end of each packet, there are start and end frames, and the receiver obviously then gets highlighted. Okay, this is the beginning of a new packet, and then when it gets to the end frame, this is the end of this current packet. And the way it's spaced out is so they can determine the synchronization of their clocks, allowing them to transfer data at a consistent rate, okay, that allows data transfer to come through correctly. Question 4, distinguish between the addressing purposes of IP and MAC addresses. So we know that the IP exchange happens at the communication control and addressing level. It's one of the protocols from that level. So the IP address is used for transmitting data packets over the internet using hardware such as a router. Once the packets reach their address network, okay, so they're going to get to the router, okay, of the addressee. Okay, the MAC address is then brought in and directs the data within the network using a switch, most likely, okay, sending the data to a specific device that is attached to that router, so a specific device on that network, which would be the destination. Okay, so the IP address gets it to the receiver, and then the MAC address gets the data to its destination on that network. Okay, if we're going to use the terminology of the communication systems framework. Question 5, identify 3 methods of error detection. What takes place if an error occurs? So we have our 3 types, which we're going to go into detail on later in this unit. And basically the 3 methods are parity bit, checksum, and cyclic redundancy check. Okay, and all of them apply a certain type of calculation to the packets of data, okay, which is then checked at the receiver's end, okay, to ensure that an error has been detected, or that it's error free and the data is good. If an error does occur though, the packet of data is then discarded and a signal sent back to the transmitter saying to resend that data packet. Okay, so basically a message needs to go back to the transmitter saying resend that, as that packet was not error free because an error was detected based on the calculation of one of those types of error detection methods. So I hope these questions have all helped you out with understanding some of the functions that occur within communication systems. Hopefully you got 5 out of 5.